So, good morning, everybody, or afternoon. Sorry, I'm so used to doing these in the morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, my name is John Gibbons. I am with Mutual of Omaha. My background is I've been here almost 4 years. Prior to that, I spent 4 years at One America. And then prior to that, a lifetime at Genworth on the long term care side. So I've been doing this quite a while. A lot of experience in both asset based and traditional type products. So what I want to talk today is having the conversation and how to lay out a plan, and then I'll get into some products information also, but more at a high level. And my big pet peeve over the years, I've done this a long time, is most advisors are not proactive, and this is critical. Extended care planning in retirement planning, because this can wipe out somebody's assets. And so many are not proactive at all, agents, advisors. Then you have some advisors that, the client comes to them, yeah, I know long-term care. You come to the great team here at CAFL and get an illustration. And then all you do is walk through the illustration. And then the client goes, you know what, John, this is too expensive. And then you blame the carrier because you didn't show the value of it. You didn't tell them why they needed it like you do every other product. So key is you have to lay out a plan and have the conversation. And I'm going to give you some info around that hopefully you'll get some golden nuggets out of this that'll help you in positioning this. So, talk about the risk management here, right? Transfer the risk. You do it with other stages of life and other different concerns, right? Insurance has served people very well. So, auto and car insurance. So, mandated, right? But most prudent people, even if it wasn't, would purchase this, right? So you're transferring the risk. Umbrella, health insurance, hopefully you have DI insurance to protect you in case you need income replacement. Got your life insurance, hopefully, if something was to happen to you. And now, in the last stage of your life, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, what have you done to protect your retirement portfolio? What have you done to protect your adult children from having to be caregivers? Let's talk about this stage of your life, transferring the risk. It's an easy way to position it. Now, let's talk about the long-term care gap. So here's a question on the left-hand side. This is from Edward Jones, did a study. What are your greatest financial worries in retirement? All right, what are your greatest financial worries in retirement? Now, in the yellow are retirees. In the blue is pre-retirees over here. Greatest financial worry is not what most people think, outliving my savings. The answer was healthcare costs, including long-term care. 52% and 66%. Biggest concern. Now, let's take a look at the gap. This is a LIMRA study in the second bar chart here. In the blue, this shows 55% understand the need, right in line with over here. But guess what? In the orange here, only 15% say I have it. See, a lot of people out there that understand it, but aren't getting it. I think part of that has to do with is advisors are not being proactive and or not positioning it correctly. So you can see the need is here. You're missing an opportunity. Now, before I get into the conversation part, some people are going to say, "Hey, you know what, John? That sounds great, but you know what? We're gonna self-insure." Well, guess what? You're not insuring anything. It's called self-funding. All right, it's self-funding, not insuring. So it's a gamble, and you're rolling the dice that it's not going to happen to you. And guess what? That right here is a good term to use. That's an all-in bet because you're exposing your whole portfolio that maybe you've spent the last 30 to 40 years to build up to having to pay for this. So if it's a $300,000 event, extended care event, that's $300 of your money. And you hope that's all it is. If it's $1 million, it's $1 million gone. Keep spending it, it's gone. If it's 2 million, you can't unring that bell. It's too late. It's gone. You rolled the dice, you lost. Now, I could tell you that my mother had MS. Some of you have heard me talk about this, for 40 years in a wheelchair, the last 20 of it. She eventually ends up on, we run out of money, ends up on a nursing home on Medicaid. Now, when she passed away a few, 3-4 years ago, I did a back of the envelope math. She easily would have been a $2.5 million claim if we had a policy. Or if we had $2.5 million, could be gone. And I hear 2 million all the time, today's dollars. 5 million is the most I've heard. Somebody went through 5. I heard 4 million about 2 years ago when I was on a panel. An advisor stood up and said, yeah, we just went through 4 million. All right. It's a bet. It's a gamble. If you transfer the risk, this policy protects the spouse and the adult children. All right. Now, a good thing is to utilize, let's say you're going through this and you're getting pushback. You can tell they're not buying into this. Here, and you may want to write this down. Here's what I would ask them. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if you had an event, long-term care, extended care event, a year from now or 5 years from now, which assets would you liquidate first to pay for that care? Now, the key word here, and write it down, is liquidate. Not how would you pay for it, what asset would you use, or what would you do? Use the term liquidate, because what's going to happen, Mr. Jones is going to go, well, John, wait a minute. We're not liquidating anything. What are you talking about? We just spent the last 40 years, the two of us, building up this nest egg to live off in retirement. Well, yeah, but if one of you needs care, where's the money going to come from? You're going to have to take it and liquidate either your 401k, your IRA, sell stock. How are you going to pay for it? So they know they have money, but the light bulb hasn't gone off that they're going to have to use their money to pay for this. This helps connect the dots. Mrs. Jones is going to go, whoa, time out. We're not liquidating anything, because if it's me, the husband, the male that needs the care first, and I start liquidating, what is she going to live off of? And she gets that. So, and I've told advisors to do it, and they come back, John, you say, you're absolutely right. Freak them out. All right. Somebody has real estate, is the market timing right to sell that real estate, tax liability. If and I'm going to assume many of you are going to be in the Northeast, where it's very expensive, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, right? Most expensive in the country. Probably 175, 200,000, maybe for nursing home today. So if you're selling somebody in their 50s in the sweet spot, this product, they're going to use it for 25 years. What's it going to be 25 years in? 400,000, 350,000? So if I have to take 300,000 out in a 25% tax bracket, I'm going to have to take out 375,000 and give 75 to the taxes. All right. So you need to set up a stage and have a conversation and ask some leading questions. Long-term care right here is an emotional sale, not a logical sale. People buy things emotionally and then they justify it logically. All right. So you want to go into things, and there's some questions in here. I'm going to give you better ones that, where do you want to get your care if you needed it? Who do you want to provide it? How would you pay for it? So, but I'm going to give you some better stuff in a second, but here's where I would start. You want to create a plan, a sales track, right? One of the, I wish I reversed these. I thought I did. The first thing I would do is a second bullet point. Do your field underwriting. Don't waste your time if somebody's unhealthy and uninsurable, right? So ask the leading questions. Do your field underwriting. Sometimes they do forget things. So you may have to ask a couple times. Sometimes it's selective memory. They think we're not going to find it, so they're not going to tell you. All right. I will tell you that we changed our underwriting philosophy over a year, almost a year and a half ago, and things go much more quickly. Our cycle times. So really quick sidebar, our underwriters can now pull up a database and look at medical coding. And by being able to do that, they now order 40% less medical records. 40. They order 40% less phone interviews. So somebody's like under age 59 and they're healthy, we don't do anything. Look at the app, look at MIB maybe or whatever, prescription drug report, and approve it. We don't have to order anything. It's all, we have it all. All right. So you should be seeing cases coming out in 7 to 10 days. All right. Now, if somebody's 60 to 64, and they're healthy, we may say no medical records, but we still have to do a phone interview for the cognitive. Age 65 plus, have to do the face-to-face. But we can say, hey, we just need the cognitive for that. They're healthy. When we first rolled this out, one of my accounts called me and said, John, you guys just waived medical records on a 68-year-old. So this is awesome. All right. So cycle times are way down. This makes it a better experience for you and your client. So next, let's talk about needs analysis. Know your client, if it's a prospect, whatever, and design the coverage appropriately. So let me ground you. Most areas, I recommend $5,500 a month. Now, again, it's more expensive in the Northeast, so maybe I would start with $6,500 a monthly benefit. This is where I start for your upper middle class. All right, I think that's where most sales are, upper middle class. So let me give you my base first. So let's say $6,500 a month. I'm going to go 3 years of coverage. Excuse me. I may show them a 3-year and maybe a 4-year. Show both. It's okay to do that. I'm going to use 3% inflation. And I'm going to have 90-day elimination period. I'm going to add the shared care rider. Shared care means my wife and I have a policy. We connect it with a rider. I have 3 years. She has 3 years. We have 6 years now to share. So we as males, right, we think we're invincible. Well, guess what, Mr. Jones? Men get ALS, MS, Parkinson's, dementia, all of it. But if you don't use yours, I know it's a concern. You have it if you need it. If you don't, now your wife has better coverage. All right? Or vice versa. So shared plan, upper middle class, and affluent, I use that. And I'm going to always add joint waiver of premium when it's a couple. Very inexpensive. And it has a lot of value. All right. So knowing your client. So now if I'm talking to somebody that's middle class, or I'm going to throw teachers in there with pensions and things like that, I'm going to design this differently. Now, I think in some areas the pensions could be strong. I know I live in the Chicago area. Some pensions are strong. They could be considered upper middle class, but let's just say I'm middle class, average pensions or below average pension. Now I'm going to drop this down to like $4,000 a month benefit. 2 years of coverage, maybe show a 2 and a 3-year. 2% inflation. I am not going to do shared care here. That adds $1,000 to that couple's policy. All right. I want to keep this affordable so they have coverage. If I show them, and some are going to go, well, John, that's not enough coverage. They should have the same thing as the upper middle class. Well, they can't afford that. And if you show them that, then they're not going to buy it, and then they have nothing. So you show them something they can buy. I will tell you, coming from a blue-collar family, my father had a pension. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. My mother worked her tails off to take care of us. My mother, I said, eventually ended up on Medicaid in a nursing home. His pension wasn't enough. if she would have had a $3,000 long-term care policy, that little would have kept her out of the nursing home, would have kept her get care at home. Absolutely. So yes, something is better than nothing. So that's how I would design that. If I have wealthier clients, I may up it to like 8,000 or something. I'm not going to jack this up to 12. We go to 15,000. All right. Unless they ask me to. So I learned quickly when I was at Genworth, I had to do assisted sales. And the wealthier clients, I was making it robust coverage. And I kept hearing no. They'd go, you know what, for that much money, I'm just going to self-insure. So then I learned, all right, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you have assets, a lot. You could self-insure this. But you're right in looking at this because it makes sense to transfer the risk. You shouldn't self-insure. I'm going to show you the same coverage, roughly, a little bit more than what I show upper middle class people. You already have assets. I'm just trying to keep the dam from breaking. And I would show them a more reasonable premium. So again, I'd go maybe even keep it at 7 or 7,500, maybe go up to 8,000 a month benefit. Again, a 3-year, maybe a 4-year plan here. 3% inflation, shared care, joint waiver of premium. All right. They can always tell me they want more coverage. But if I start too high and get a no, you've lost them. You're done. All right. So needs analysis is critical. And then you let them know you have different options, right? You've got asset-based. You've got traditional long-term care. Some people don't want more life insurance. Some people don't. Asset-based are great products. They don't want to pay that much money. It's term versus permanent, right? Same concept. I'll take traditional. And here's something, if you really want to be good at this, learn the product and the ancillary benefits. So like we have bed reservations. We have a concierge service called Care Coordinator Services, international coverage, all kinds, like there's 6, 7, 8 different things, extra benefits in here. All right. I used to go through them when I would do assisted sales because everybody, if you ask somebody, what do you know about long-term care insurance? Nothing. I just hear it's expensive. I've been saying that for 25 years. So what I wanted to do was scare them. I was telling them everything this did. So they would be sitting there going, oh my gosh, this is great stuff. This does a lot. Holy cow, this is going to be expensive. And then when I showed them, it was a lot less than what they thought. But I built up the value. All right. All right. So now what happens when there's an event? It's a fire drill because most people don't want to talk about this. So they don't have a plan in place. And they're scrambling around. Stress level goes up. Emotional competency goes down. Irrational decision making, right? And then maybe one of the daughters goes, I'll cut back on my hours at work, or I'll quit my job. Or the son says that, or whatever. All right. And it's a challenge. So I'm going to give you a 3-step sales process. All right. And if there's nothing else you take away today, this should be it. I use this extensively. It handles all the objections, and it starts to make this a conversation. So, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, my most prudent clients work with me on extended care planning for 3 reasons. And please write this down. The first one, people are living a longer life. Okay. People are living, let me just check something here, are living a longer life. Two, this is a family issue. This has nothing to do with the one that gets ill. So 2, family issue, and I'll expound on these in a second. 3, if you have an event how are you going to pay for it? If you have an event, how are you going to pay for it? All right. So let's thought number one. This is designed to be a conversational. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, think about the things that were fatal to our parents and grandparents. They're now manageable, right? Think about it. Cancer. How many times have you heard somebody, they diagnose cancer pre-stage 1 because people are going to the doctor more or whatever, more ability to ferret that out. Or if I have to get chemo, advances in medicine, I lived through the cancer. Heart issue. The heck, they throw a couple of stents in and send you back to work, right? So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and they're going to go, oh, yeah, John, and they'll tell stories, and you're talking and have a conversation. Then you go, so think about this. You're now 90, 95 years old, and you need help just because of aging, right? One of you or both of you. What's your game plan? How are you going to take care of yourself? I don't have a plan. That's why I'm here. We need to lay out a plan. Or they might go, my adult children. Really? You're 95, they're 75. I don't think that's going to work, right? So then it rolls into, all right, again, second thing here, this is a family issue. And before I get into that, right down here, every carrier uses this. If I hit age 65, there's a 70% chance I'm going to have an extended care event. That's pretty significant, right? Let's assume that number is wrong and cut it in half. 35 is still pretty significant, isn't it? Now, if it's a couple I'm talking to, that extrapolates into a 91% chance one of you going to have an extended care event. All right. Now, do you think you're going to be one of the 9% doesn't have this? You don't need a plan? All right. So let's talk about the family issue. Families are smaller nowadays, right? 2 to 3 adult children. Now, sometimes you have demographic challenges. People move out of the area. Mom or dad need help. Well, we're not there. Or I had a neighbor, she had to drive for probably 3 years from Chicago to Indianapolis every other weekend to help with her mother who had, I think, Parkinson's and dementia. All right. For like 3 years. Eventually, she got an apartment there, and her work would let her work remotely at times so she could go like a 4-day weekend and stuff. All right. Have a plan in place. Or could have hired somebody, right? Now, let's assume all 3 adult children live in the area. Here's the question, and please, please, please write this down. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if one of you needed care, do you think all 3 of your adult children are going to raise their hand and help the same amount? Do you think all 3 of your adult children are going to help the same amount? And they're going to go, oh, John, I never even thought about that, but that's a good point. They're going to go, Mary, the oldest one, she's an attorney, works 60, 70 hours a week. She can't help. John, the middle one's a guy. He lives a little bit further away. He's not going to do anything. It's going to fall to Susie, the youngest one. Okay. Do you think Susie is going to have animosity with John and Mary, justified or not? You better believe it. This tears families apart. Tears families apart. And they're going to go, you know what? You're right, John. The neighbor lady did the same thing. Her mother got ill. She's the only one that did all the work. The siblings didn't help. There's a wedding this weekend for her nephew. She's not going. Doesn't talk to him. All right. This is where the emotional part comes in. I have family members that are going through it right now. 2 siblings do all the work. 2 are AWOL. do nothing. All right. Next, third, if you have an event, how are you going to pay for it? So we talked about the self-funding. You want to mention Medicare and Medicaid because like 60-some% of the people think Medicare pays for this. I have people that come to me or they ask me what I do in the area I live and upper middle class, and I mention it and they go, doesn't Medicare cover that? No. Highly educated people, no, it does not. It does for 100 days and then it stops. And Medicaid is for the indigent. Most states bring your assets down under $2,000 and you can go to a Medicaid facility. All right. Well, the third option is transfer the risk. And this leads you right into the illustration. So if you use these 3 steps, you're going to have a 20, 30-minute dialogue, and they're going to give you ammo to use in the close. So now this happens, and I've seen it. Once you help somebody apply and take an application, there's a sense of relief. They're like, okay, now I have an action plan. I know I can stay at home. I protected my assets. I protected my family. They don't have to be the caregivers. There's this sense of relief. And my biggest concern and worry in retirement is handled. Here's another thing. When I talk about coverage, don't get caught up in the cost of nursing home care. And I got to cover all that, not the design. For upper middle class affluent, maybe 60, 70% of it, right? They have assets. And if you jack it up all the time, you're not going to sell. You're going to sell 1 in 10 or 1 in 20. But the other reason is most care is given at home if they have a policy. Statistically, if I don't have a policy, there's a 40% chance I end up in a nursing home. If I have a policy, only 13% of the claimants are in a nursing home. 13% assisted living, 74% at home where they want to get it. That's why the design is fine. All right. I had this from an advisor, his own agency, specializes in long-term care. And he talks about having a long-term care plan, comprehensive plan. So he's even asking in here, very comprehensive. Do you have durable power of attorney? Have you taken care of advanced medical directives? On and on. It makes it comprehensive. So it's not just here to sell you long-term care. Let's make sure you have a full plan in place. All right. And then extensive field underwriting questions, because that's all he sells and he understands it better, but he's going through it extensively. Another thing you can show is cost of waiting. Ideally your sweet spot is age 50 to 64, 65. I mean, you can sell 70-year-olds. Half of them are approved. It's pretty good, right? People in their 40s, they'll buy it. But your sweet spot, 50 to 65. So you're a 55-year-old. You buy it 66.25 here for this design. At age 80, in 25 years, average claimant is age 80. That's good to know. So this will have grown to $12,000, almost $13,000. If you wait 5 years, it's $1,000 more a year it's going to cost you. And you lose some of your leveraging. If you wait 10 years, that's assuming we don't introduce a new product with new pricing, it's almost $3,000 more. And again, you lose some of your leveraging. So a good way to show them, don't procrastinate. And you also have the risk of uninsurability. Here's another thing you can draw. I got a claim. Well, I could pull from my qualified IRA money. Well, that's going to cost me. I got to pay taxes on that, $1.40. I'm going to have to sell my stock over here, $1.30 maybe per dollar. Cash, dollar for dollar. Or I can transfer the risk, and it's only cost me 40 cents on the dollar because of leveraging. And traditional long-term care historically gives you by far the best leveraging. I'm going to go through this quickly. Think about somebody with a nest egg. And let's say they have that nest egg is $750,000. Now, statistically in retirement, you're going to have 3 to 4 bear markets you're going to hit. You're going to have to live through it. And 2-3 years ago, we had a bear market and it was down 20% market. Usually it's 30. I'm going to use the 20. So 750,000 is down 20%. My nest egg right now is at 600,000. Now I'm going to layer on, and you're losing sleep at night. I'm pulling my 4% out or whatever that magic number is. Now it's down to 600. And now I'm going to layer on an extended care event on that. How well are you going to sleep now? So we're going to assume it's $62,000 here, basically, for home care. If it's money that I have to pay taxes on, that means I got to take out $82,000 if I'm in a 25% tax bracket. $113,000 for nursing home, again, more expensive in the Northeast where a lot of people are on here. I got to take out $151,000, pay the taxes. So first year I get care at home, I take out that $82,000 or whatever it was. I'm down to $517 on my nest egg, and that's even with 10% growth. I'm assuming now I'm out of the bear market. I got some growth. Now I go to a nursing home. First year in a nursing home, 10% growth, but I got to take that $151,000 out. Now I'm down to $402. Second year in a nursing home. Now I'm down to $276. Third and last year of care in a nursing home, I'm down to $138 in my nest egg. If that's me, what's my wife going to live off of? She can go back to work at 95. It would take 18 years, consecutive 7% growth to get that back to the 750. So another way of showing somebody the impact to a portfolio. All right, next. I'm going to ask any questions yet. That usually doesn't lend itself to questions. Were there any questions out there? Say we're good. All right, we have 2 products. I'm hitting high level and stuff here. We have custom and secure. Strongly recommend you use custom. Custom. Years ago, it was secure. Now we made changes, use custom. We have cash. Here's some things built into both. Cash benefit.
John, sorry, real quick. On the illustrations, we used to have the app and WinFlex, but now we only can run it on WinFlex. Is that correct?
You know, if you had the old software, you could hit update and it's still accurate. We just can't give it to you anymore. We don't own it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. But yes, WinFlex.
Okay.
You can also run on our spa. In spa, you can run illustration, but you can't, there's no output to like print it or save it. So WinFlex is, yes, your best bet. Good comment. All right, so cash benefit, because we're reimbursement. I can use 25% of my benefit up to $2,000. That $2,000 can grow with inflation. I can pay anybody. I can pay my wife, my adult children, because in the beginning, care is typically intermittent, right? So it's intermittent, and I may not want to mess with an agency or anything, maybe for a couple hours a day or every other day. So now I can just pay somebody cash and make it real easy. We have a monthly benefit versus daily. There's some carriers out there have daily, not nearly as good. 90-day elimination period, that is calendar days. Some people have what they call service days. So if you're getting care every other day, it could take you 180 days to go through that. All right. Side-by-side comparison here, custom on the right-hand side. Custom secure only has a 2, 3, and a 4-year benefit. Custom, 500,000 pool money. Depending on my monthly benefit, I can make this a 5, 6, maybe even a 7-year benefit. We now go up to 15,000 per month. That's probably within the last 6 months or so we did that. And the whole reason is we know it's expensive in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. So I can go up to 15,000. And on secure, I only have 3 options for elimination period. On custom, I can make it 0 day, 30, 60. Now, I don't recommend 0 day. I think it's too expensive. I also have 0 day for home care only. I still think that's too expensive. I don't add it unless they, for some reason, ask for it. Skip this. International benefit. Ours is one of the best. It's 12 months of coverage, but it's full benefit. Most knock the benefit down. Most are only nursing home. We're home care, assisted living, and nursing home. Waiver of premium is built in. So if I'm getting care, I'm not paying premiums, once I go through my elimination period. Now, the other one I talked about, joint waiver of premium right here, I would add that. $100, $150 a year, add it. Now, here's the inflation. On secure, I only have 3%, exactly 3%, exactly 4%, exactly 5%. That's it. On custom, I can go down to 1%. I can make it 1.25, 1.5, same as like 2.5, whatever. I have a lot of flexibility. I mentioned with upper middle or with middle class people, I want to use 2% inflation. I can't do that with secure. I can with custom. Here's the other thing with custom. I can make my inflation lifetime, which everybody has, stop after 20 years. I can stop it after 15 years, save money, stop it after 10 years to save money. So if I have a 60-year-old, remember I said average claimant is age 80. If I have a 60-year-old, I'm going to do 20-year inflation. It's going to save me like $1,000 to $1,300 a year in premium. That gets me to age 80. If I live a little bit longer than that, I'm close enough. If I have a 65-year-old, I can go to 15-year. 70-year-old, 10-year. Take advantage of this. This saves money. Keep the premiums reasonable with good coverage still. All right, here's a big one. No multitasking here. Pay attention. This is built in to custom. I'm 55 years old. Hey, John, this sounds great, but I got kids at college. It's kicking our butt. All right, well, here's what we're going to do, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. We're going to start you at 1% inflation. You have to have something on here. That's going to save like $3,000 a year in premium versus 3%. You mentioned first kids out of college in about 3 years, maybe get a little bit extra money. We can up it on your policy anniversary to like 2%. We can do that. In 6 years, the kids are all out. More disposable income, right? Now we play catch up a little bit, maybe go to 3.5 or 4 for a little bit, and now bring it back down. So I can change my inflation up for the first 20 years or until I hit age 75, whichever comes first, no underwriting. So I can buy more coverage. That's huge. So you're locking these people in at age 55. At age 61, they buy 3% inflation, so they're going to get charged for 2% more inflation at age 61. But you locked everything else in. That's huge. This is a big deal. We're the only ones that have this. And whether they use it or not, it's a great selling tool that they have the flexibility to do this. At any age, they can reduce it. And again, if you have any questions, you can hit the chat box or the question box, and Juniper or Dana or somebody will read them to me. Shared care. I mentioned earlier, and the policy had to be exact. I can connect it with a rider. Again, upper middle class and affluent, I add it every time, not with middle class. Security benefit. The only ones that have this. My wife and I apply, she gets declined. Can't get it. Or like my mother had MS and could not apply even. Then what you do is a security benefit. It's 60% more premium, just still less than me and my wife's premium together. And if I go on claim, the healthy one, I get 60% more benefit cash. I don't need receipts. So example, I'm age 80 and my monthly benefit's grown to $10,000. I'm using all 10. I get 60% of that. I get $6,000 cash. Do what I want with it. Now, theoretically, it's there to take care of my wife, right? And if she doesn't need care yet, I can bank it. End of 1 year, I'd have $72,000. At the end of 3 years, I'd have over 210. That's a huge benefit. We're the only ones that have that. If you're in a problem like that. Full return of premium. People say, well, John, what if you never use this? Well, wait a minute. Age 64 and below, I can add full return of premium. And when I say that, that means I have to buy it when I'm age 64 or younger. I can get the return of premium at any age. All right, die at 80, don't use it, I get my money back. All right, we have this. A lot of people aren't aware of that. I'm still going to be less than asset-based. Now, here's a big one, too, that most people forget, even when I talk about it. Forget about the cash benefit. Separate from that, I'm going on claim. I'm using my full benefit. I'm going to use a neighbor or my cleaning lady who wants to do it, be my caregiver. If they go get a certification as a caregiver, go to night school, like 3 nights or something at the community college, and they come my way with a certificate, I know how to do this. We'll let you pay them cash. And we'll reimburse you. You just document it. All right. That's huge. Just cannot use a family member for that. All right. No other reimbursement allows you to do this. All right. Again, we have the return of premium. All right. And that's basically just showing you get the concept. You don't use it, you get your money back. Talk about the care coordinator. It's like a concierge service, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Every carrier has it now. Build it up. Now, here's an advantage for traditional is partnership benefit. I can protect assets, potentially, and go on Medicaid. So it's a partnership between state and the federal government. If I buy a pool of money of traditional long-term care, let's say it's $200,000 pool, I go through it. Now I got to use my own money. Well, say I have $500,000, including my home equity. I can spend down $300,000, stop when there's 200 left, set it aside, protect it as a legacy for my adult children, and go on Medicaid. Or if I had a $250,000 pool of money, I could do that. Now, New York and Connecticut do not have that right now, or we don't with them anyways, but New Jersey does. All right, I'll show you in a second. So this could be a big deal and it's free. So New Jersey is right here. To get this in New Jersey, I have to have 3 to 5% inflation on here. And it's free. I automatically get this. I cannot use the 20-year, 15, and 10-year inflation in New Jersey to get the partnership, but I can do these. And then it's automatically added. All right. Pennsylvania is on here somewhere. Down here, PA, 1 to 5%. I'm covered. All right. Some people dismiss this. I will tell you this is a big deal. When my father realized at one point that we would have to use the home equity, when he passes away, he connected the dots that we'd have to use the home equity to pay for my mother's care. He was devastated. He wanted that to be a legacy from my mom and dad to me and my 4 sisters. His father was blue collar and was able to do that for he and his siblings. This is a big deal. So partnership only with traditional. All right. Couples buy the policy. It's 15% discount. If only one is issued or only one applying, 5%. 15% preferred health discount. Do not sell it. Do not. It's hard to get. Only 18% of the people get it. So be careful. If you want to buy it on yourself, they may ask you, what does your coverage look like, John? 5% discount for yourself and your spouse. Common employers one. If you get a company with 5 or more that want to buy it, you got to have 5 or more apply together in the beginning, and they get a 5% discount, and so does their spouse. It could be employer paid or employee paid. It's okay. So there's an opportunity to get a nice size case. We do not have list bill though. All right, we're just about done here. Same-sex couples can get the partner discount. You have to live together 3 years, sharing expenses. All right, here's one of the last big ones on here, tax favorability. Please pay attention. This drives me nuts. I don't think you as advisors utilize this enough. We have November's long-term care awareness month. All right. Call up your business owners, Mrs. Business Owner, Mr. Business Owner. It's long-term care awareness month. Are you aware of the tax favorability for business owners of long-term care? No. Let's set up a meeting. I got to walk you through this. It's unbelievable. So if it's a C Corp, it's 100% write-off for me and my spouse. Doesn't hit my income, and my benefits are still tax-free, even though the company paid for it, unlike disability insurance. Now, every other entity, whether it's an LLC, it's not a C Corp, excuse me, if it's an S Corp, partnership, sole proprietor, at age 51 to 60, I get right off $1,760 of that premium. Same for my wife. If I'm 61 or older, $4,700. It's a huge deal. People love running things through their business. It's an easier sale. Please take advantage of that. All right, you can use HSA money here, MSA money to pay for this. We got a lot of underwriting or some brochures that could be helpful. We have an e-app, makes your life easier. We have a strong disability product. We've always been very strong in the white or blue collar, but we revised ours like 2 years ago. We're really strong in white collar also. And we have a ton of discounts in here that I don't think anybody else is even close to. And you can stack them up to 30%. So there's a lot of advantage for our disability product. All right. So this is my contact information, but you go through, you got great resources, CAFL. You go direct to them. You have seasoned veterans there that know what they're doing. And here's the last slide. So your call to action, you just invested 45 minutes of your time. Hopefully you picked up some golden nuggets. Now act on it. Go to your clients age 50 to 65. Go to your business owners in that age group first. Tax favorability. In your book of business, look for single females, 60 to 70 years old. They don't know they can get this. I'm sure they're concerned about it. And then your wealthy clients, they will buy it. Some will summarily shut you down, but many of them get it. I helped an advisor 20 years ago, somebody with a $40 million net worth in Tennessee. Her mother had been getting care at home for 10 years, was in a nursing home for 3, and they wanted to buy a policy because they spent a lot of money. And they knew the concept of leveraging in other people's money. So 40 million, could they sell? Sure, absolutely. And guess what? The agent called me like 2 years ago and go, hey, John, you remember that case? I said, absolutely, I remember it. One of them just went on claim. And somebody like 3 years ago tell me, I think I walked into their office and they said, hey, we just sold a MOVE policy to a guy with $50 million net worth. Why do you buy it? Because said he thinks his kids are going to be more worried about the money than him getting care if he needed care. So could he self-insure? Yeah, but this ensures that he gets taken care of. So anyways, they will buy it. So let me see if at this point, are there any questions in the question box or anybody have any questions before we wrap it up? Are we good?
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay. Awesome. Do you have any final comments, Juniper, or are we good?
No, I think this has been amazing information, and we'll be sure to get this recording with your presentation deck out to our attendees.
All right, here's my last comment. Think about who you're going to meet with over the next 2 weeks, whether it's clients or prospects, and then reach out to the team at Capitol and have them run you or craft you an illustration to proactively bring to that meeting. And with that, thank you very much, everybody, for your time and your business, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, John.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.